Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Getting Started with Microsoft's Power BI, presented by our New Horizons expert technical instructor for today, Ed McRae. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting and moderating our session today. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use that chat or the Q&A option for our short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today, so without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Ed.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This is Getting Started with Power BI, and it's my pleasure to be here with you. Without further ado, let's look at our three topics for this session. We are going to talk about modeling data. Of course, I'll do a quick intro as to what Power BI is. We'll talk about modeling data. We'll talk about cleaning and transforming data, and we will talk about deploying reports and dashboards. All right, let's get into it. Now, Power BI is a business intelligence solution, and any business intelligence solution is going to allow us to do these four things. Firstly, it's going to allow us to import data from multiple sources. The whole point of business intelligence is to be able to manage, analyze, and visualize data in a data model or a data set. All right. And so the first thing that we're going to need to do in a business intelligence solution is import data from multiple sources. Secondly, a business intelligence solution should allow us to manipulate and transform our data. Oftentimes, when we pull in our data, it is going to need to be cleaned up. This is especially true if our data is coming from Excel. Oftentimes, when we are working in Excel, we are not thinking about a data model when we're creating things. We are just thinking about what it is that we want to see. So we'll have extra headings or combined columns or just other visually, appealing things that are not going to be useful in a data model. So we need to have tools to transform and clean that data up. Thirdly, of course, we need to be able to visualize our data. All right, so we need to have a variety of different charts and graphs and things to help us to do that. And then lastly, we need to be able to share our data out in some kind of way. Power BI is a business analytics service that delivers insights to enable fast, informed decisions. It helps us to transform data into stunning visuals and share them with colleagues on any device. We can visually explore and analyze data, whether it be on premises, meaning a local server, or in the cloud, all in one view. We can collaborate on and share customized dashboards and interactive reports, and we can scale our data out across our organization. There are three different platforms by which we can access Power BI. One of them is the Power BI web service, which is accessible through Office 365. Power BI is a part of the Office 365 Power Platform, which is in and of itself a larger business intelligence solution or platform. But we can access Power BI right there through Office 365 in the cloud. We also have Power BI Desktop, which I'm going to show you in just a moment here, that we can have installed on our local machine. And then we have Power BI Mobile, which we would use on our phones and tablets to access existing data. We would not create anything inside of Power BI Mobile, but we would be able to view existing reports and dashboards there. There are three different components that we would find in a Power BI environment. The first is the data set or data model. This is the amalgamation of our data that we have imported and cleaned up or transformed. And we are going to use Power BI Desktop exclusively to build this data model. There are some tools in the web service to manipulate the data model, but really the bulk of the tools for both creating and manipulating things are in Power BI Desktop, especially when it comes to being able to pull in data from multiple sources. You are going to be very limited in the options you're presented in the web service. Power BI Desktop is going to give you, you can pull data in from wherever it is you want to. All right. Then we have reports, which are a page-based space, the dimensions of which are similar to a PowerPoint slide. This is where we would create and edit our visualizations that we would want people to see. We can create and manage reports equally as well in both the desktop and web service. And then lastly, we have dashboards, which are a free-flowing space similar to a whiteboard where we would take existing visualizations from reports and pin them together. So if we have multiple reports where the information is related and we need to pull specific visualizations from each report to make a overarching or a more combined data presentation, you can use a dashboard to do that. Dashboards are created and managed exclusively in the web service. So the way that our data typically flows in Power BI is we start by connecting to our data, transform and combine that data. These things, of course, are going to be done exclusively in Power BI Desktop. Let's put a DT up here for desktop. We can then begin to explore and analyze our data. At some point, we are going to need to publish our data to the web service. And there we can begin to build dashboards, we can begin to share our data and do all these other things. We can also edit our reports. So again, most commonly, we'd use Power BI Desktop to create our initial reports. And then if we wanted to edit them, we could do so inside of our web service. Okay. All right, so let's pull up Power BI Desktop here. And I have a blank report. And let's start by just quickly importing in some data. We'll do a little bit of data cleanup. We will create a quick report and we will talk about publishing and how that works. Okay. So first of all, if I come up here and I look at the different data sources that I have available to me here in Power BI Desktop, right, we're just going to see a ton of stuff here, right? All kinds of files, right? Excel, of course, that's going to be highlighted. Text, PDFs, folders, SharePoint libraries, right? We have all kinds of different databases. We have Microsoft Fabric data sources, Power Platform data sources, Azure data sources, right? Online services, or all kinds of stuff in there. And right, other stuff, right? So if you need a data source, Power BI's got plenty of data sources for you. You can pull data in from wherever you want to, and if for some strange reason you could not make a direct import, you could just convert that data to text or CSV or Excel and then pull it in from there. But you know, as you can see here, there's just a ton of sources and you can pull from wherever you want. Okay. I'm going to connect to an Excel workbook here, so let's do that. Excel workbook, connect. And let's take a look at some data here. And I want to, let's look at this data right here. My footprint, sports sales, and products. When I connect to a data source, no matter whether it's Excel, SQL, right, whatever it is going to give me a navigator, as you can see here. This navigator is going to allow me to see the data, the different tables that are a part of that data source. And I can start looking at things, right? So I can look over here and I can see my data, right? So 2015 data, oh, isn't that wonderful, right? 2016 data, cool, right? Products, right? All this stuff is here. All right, this is great. So I can choose what it is that I want, right? So I'm going to pull in all three of these, and I'm just going to grab these tables here. And down at the bottom here, and the reason why some of these are in blue is these are actual Excel tables, and these are the whole worksheets, right? So you can differentiate between the two, right? In this case, it's the exact same data because the only thing on the worksheet is that table. But if you had multiple tables on one worksheet, as long as they're set up as an Excel table, you could pull in the individual tables. Okay? Now, once I choose the data that I want to work with, I have two options here. I could choose load, which is going to load that data up directly into my data model or my data set as is, or I can do transform data. Now, transform data is going to load the data up into Power Query. And Power Query is the tool that I can use to clean and transform my data. And there's a little bit of transforming that I'm going to want to do with this data. But before I do that, let's actually just load it right on up into the data model and just see what it looks like, right? So I'm going to hit load, and it's going to go ahead and load. And I can always step back into Power Query and begin to manipulate that data if I wanted to do so, right? So we can see it evaluating the data now. Some of the things that it's doing is just looking at the fields. It is looking at the potential for relationships between the tables. If it can, it will automatically create them, right? It's also parsing through any changes that have been set up inside of Power Query. In this case, there haven't been any, so it's just going to load the data up just as it is. Because we are working with Excel data here, the only option is to do what's called a import query. So it's actually fully importing the data into the data model. If we were working with like SQL or some kind of database, we'd have the option to tell it to do an import query or a direct query, meaning it would directly query the original data source every time we run our report. That's very useful for if we needed like real-time updates and things of that sort, okay? So my data has been imported. Look at that. Right there are the fields. Isn't that lovely? All right, I can switch over. Right now I'm in report view. If I desired to, I could switch to table view here. And in table view, I'd be able to see the actual data. Once it decides to load up, there it is. All right, I can look at the actual data. Isn't that lovely? All right, this is fantastic. And if I wanted to, oh, I see what that's happening. And if I wanted to, I could go to the model view. And in the model view here, I could see the relationship between the data. We can see they're both joined to the products table, and that happened automatically. Okay. All right, I want to transform this data. I want to combine sales 2015 and 2016 into one table. I want to incorporate some other data here, and I also want to make a change or two to the sales data in here. So let's step back into Power Query. How can I do that? I can step back into Power Query by going here to Transform Data. So I'm going to click on that, and it brings me into Power Query. Okay, so Power Query is always what is facilitating our importing of data, whether we step into it and make changes or not. Power Query is working behind the scenes. So I can look over here and I can see my different queries, right? Here's my products query. Here is my sales 2015 query. Here is my sales 2016 query. Okay. All right. And I can start doing stuff, right? So I can start changing the names of these. Let's just change this to products instead of products one. Let's import another set of data. I'm going to come up here to new source. I'm going to pull in a text file, right? So all the same data sources are available here through Power Query. And let's pull in some customer information here. So through Power Query, it is possible for you to import multiple sets of data all at once, right? You can connect to all your different data sets, change everything, and then import everything right from the get-go. All right. So I'm going to click OK, and here comes my customer information. Let's just change the name of this to customers. All right, cool. Now there are lots of things that we could do in here. Right, we see all these different commands under the Home tab and under the Transform tab. In the interest of time, I'm going to do just a simple append query. Now the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this ship date field from sales 2015 because it is not in sales 2016. So I'm going to remove that from here. Anything that I do is going to show up in the applied steps area over here so that I can easily undo stuff if I wanted to undo it. Okay. And then we'll do just a quick append query. So up at the top here, I'm going to go to append queries. Let's say append queries as new. And we're going to go ahead and append sales 2015 and 2016. Let's click OK here. And there we go. It gives us a nice table here with all of the sales. All right. Let's do a couple things. Let's change this to all sales. Let's filter out a customer. Let's say we know there's some erroneous customer data in here. Let's say customer W-1712551 is not a legitimate customer. I'm going to filter that data out here. And lastly, let's say we don't need this ID column, right? I'm going to remove that too. And so any structural changes, right? Any structural changes that you want to make, you're going to want to make those here in Power Query so that way, whenever you refresh your data, it's going to go and, pull the data back in from the original sources, and it's going to parse through all those changes, right? Like I said, there's lots of other things we could do. In the interest of time, we're going to stop there as far as cleaning our data up. But there's all kinds of things up here. We could pivot or unpivot data. We could change our headers. We could split columns, right? There's lots of different things we could do in here. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to tell it not to load Sales 2015 or Sales 2016 into my data model, right? I don't need those. I combined them into this. So I'm just using those to feed into this new table I've created. I'm going to right click on these guys and I'm going to say don't load. All right. That's fine. Let's disable load here. It gave me that message because it's already a part of the data model, right? So it's just warning me that would remove stuff, right? But I don't need to load that and this. Okay, so once I've made whatever changes I want, all these things are going to sit here. So if I ever came back and needed to change something, I could do so. I'm going to hit close and apply. It's going to go ahead and reload. And there we go. We can see sales 2015 and sales 2016 go bye-bye. And now we just have this combined all sales table, and we have these tables here as well. We can look at our data in table view, and this is beautiful. Let's just change while we're in here some of the formatting. Let's just get a short date. And let's come on over here to some of this financial data. Let's get that looking like currency. All right, just adjust my decimal places real quick. All right, so we could do some cleaning up of our data in here as well. Again, we want to reserve the this area for just like formatting changes, any structural changes, right? Like columns and headers and all those different things that we saw. We want to do that stuff in Power Query. Again, if we look at our model view, we can see our relationships have been properly detected. This is beautiful. Let's just look at our customers' data real quick and see what's happening in there. I think I would like to make a quick hierarchy over here in our products table so that I can easily view things by category, subcategory, and name. So I'm just going to come over here real quick and just make a new hierarchy. Right, and it's calling it category hierarchy. I'm going to rename that to product hierarchy. And let's go ahead and add subcategory to that. And then let's add product name. This is going to help create interactivity so our users can easily drill down into the data and be able to see more stuff. Okay. All right, this is great. All right, let's start building out a report real quick. I'm going to go over here to reports. And let's just build out a stacked bar chart. So we have all these visualizations over here. Let's do a stacked bar chart. And in my stacked bar chart, I'm going to drop in my product hierarchy. And I'm going to take a look at the sales. like so, and then maybe we want to break that down per region, maybe in the legend. Do we want to do that? Yeah, we could do that. That's fine. That's beautiful. Now I could click on this and I could change this to whatever I want. So it's a stat bar chart. I could say, hey, you know what? I meant to do a clustered column chart. Oh, look, now I have a clustered column chart. Oh, I meant to do a line chart. All right, now I've got that, right? So you can easily switch back and forth between your different visualizations. All right. All right, this is cool. Let's get a map in here real quick. And let's look at the states. Let's color code this by region. And let's have, I said color code it by region. And then let's have the size of the bubbles be based on sales. Okay, so that's nice. All right, and let's drop one more thing in here. Let's just get a table in here real quick. And in our table, let's just look at the category. Let's look at the subcategory. Let's look at the product. Let's look at the quantity. Matter of fact, let's start it off with region. All right, this is great. All right, and then let's just throw a quick slicer up here. I would like to be able to filter this data by the region. Where'd my region go? And I'd like to have that be displayed as a tile. All right, super easy, right? So now I could come up here and I could easily filter for the region, right? This is nice. Look at that. That is beautiful. I'm going to rename this page regional data. All right, you can have multiple pages in a report. Let's add another report real quick. And let's call this sales and profit. Let's do a scatter chart real quick. And let's look at the sales. Let's look at the profit. Let's look at the customer name, and let's break that down by region as well. And that's nice. And let's just do one more here. Let's do a line and column chart, right? Just showing you some different things here. We'll do a line and stacked column chart. And let's go ahead and compare our sales and our profit again. And let's break that down per month. All right, where's our order date? Cool. We're just going to break that on down per month. And maybe per category too in our legend. Yeah, it works. All right, so this is cool. All right, so I could add other stuff to this in the interest of time. We'll stop right there with that, right? So I can get things however it is that I want. I could add all kinds of interactivity. Let's go ahead and save this real quick. Let's call this sales data new. All right, now at some point I need to publish this data to my web service, right? And there I can begin to create dashboards and share my data out. I'm already signed into my account, so I can click publish. When I click publish, it is going to ask me what workspace I would like to publish this data to, all right? And so you can have different workspaces if you have a pro Power BI account, right? And so everyone has just the My Workspace, If you have a pro license, you can have different workspaces for your project teams, your departments, or what have you. So I'm going to publish this to my EdCorp training workspace. I'm going to select that. There we go. While that's publishing, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the web service here so that we can see that really quickly. All right. And then from there, we'll be able to share and do all the things. All right, let's take a quick look here at what this would look like in our web service. As soon as this decides to cooperate, there we go. All right, loading, loading, loading. And we'll see our different workspaces show up over here on the left-hand side. If I go to workspaces, there's my workspace, there's EdCorp training. Let's look at EdCorp training. And there it is. There's sales data new. All right, there's my report. I could click on that. And there we go, right? Everything that I created is right there. It all works. Fantastic. All right, I can see that there's a whole other set data model that's in this same workspace. And I could look at that data and see what's going on. We can see that we've got some different data happening in here. Okay. All right, so very easy, as we can see in Power BI, to be able to connect to data, clean and transform that data, and deploy that data in the form of reports and possibly dashboards as well. All right. All right. At this point, Mariella, I'm going to turn it back over to you as we're towards the end of our time, and let's see if there are any questions that we are going to address.
Absolutely, Ed. We actually do have a quick question, but I did want to let our audience know that if they wanted to, as a New Horizons exclusive benefit, we have a free digital achievement badge for Microsoft's PL 900 course, and I went ahead and dropped that link in the chat. If you are unable to redeem that badge right now, or you're watching back a recording of this webinar, you can still gain access to the free badge with the link you will receive in an email after the webinar. So be on the lookout for that. I had a quick question here from Anthony. What happens when the columns are not the same? Assuming columns of data.
If you're talking about in doing a pinned query, if the columns are not the same, then you would have both sets of columns there. So you'd have a bunch of blanks, and then you'd want to filter that out. Outside of that, if you're not talking about that, I'll need you to clarify what you mean as far as the columns not being the same.
Absolutely. We have like about a minute left, Anthony. So if you can drop a little clarification, you let us know for sure. But if that is it, I believe we can follow up on a couple other questions about the recording. Just as a quick reminder, we will be sending a link to the recording in an email after the webinar. So if you were not able to attend the full session, be on the lookout for that. You'll be able to get access to the full session with the Q&A and that badge link. Alrighty. I believe that will be it for us. And yep, just want to be mindful of everyone's time. So since it is 12:30, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ed, and thanks everyone for attending for today. Uh, Lots of amazing info. And again, if you need any more info on this topic, do not be afraid to visit us at newhorizons.com and reach out if you need any more info. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll hopefully see you all very soon in the classroom. Bye for now.